Hey, so let's talk about boundaries today. How is that for you? Does it feel good? Does it go really well? Does it feel easy to say what is okay for you or not, what you need? Or do you feel a little sick, maybe, at the sound of that word boundaries? Yeah, it can be really hard or even scary for a lot of us, even if we've done a lot of work on it. And the reason for that is that the complex trauma that's stored inside us, called learned distress, can really make it impossible for some of us to set boundaries in a way that works well for us. The survival mechanism that our brain developed early in life to, well, survive and fit well with our family, can say, what you have to do is squash your own needs and preferences, and you just have to say, hey, it's all okay. I don't need anything. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, and when I say survival, I really mean it, because when you were 2 years old, fitting well within your family was a matter of survival. Yeah. And so the thing is that you couldn't say, screw your abuse. If you don't start treating me with respect, I'm out of here, right? You just had to find a way to survive in that. And we keep surviving into adulthood that same way, which is why it can feel like you're going to die if you have to set a boundary. The cool thing, though, is that you can unlearn or remove layers of learned distress and your survival mechanism for dealing with it. And here's how that can look. So I had a client who had a long-standing relationship with a contractor, and there was a project they'd been working on in her house for a year or two. And she got to a certain point where she just wasn't hearing back from him, and she really needed to move forward with this thing. And she'd sent multiple messages and nothing back, and she was getting really pissed. She finally got a meeting with him, and so he came in and he started to explain about how he'd had this medical emergency, and it was really awful. And she empathized and said, wow, that sounds awful, and said all the right things, of course. And then this joke occurred to her to say, and she said it, and that kind of lightened the mood. And then she said, you know what? I hear you in all of that, but I really need better communication from you. And he said, yeah, I know. There was a point in there I'd recovered and I could have gotten back to you. And they moved on. It was fine. And she said this was really different from anything like this that she'd been through before. It felt different. She didn't feel the same kind of tension that she'd felt in similar situations before. It was really spontaneous. She didn't plan it out. She just got into the situation and responded in the moment. And when she heard his sad story, her needs didn't just fly out the window like they had in the past. She actually still said what she needed. So those are all really hallmarks of what it's like to remove learned distress rather than to just manage it or control it or fight it. I think of this as natural boundaries, where your core well-being steps in to set boundaries for you rather than you having to muscle them into place. Yeah. So if boundaries are something you've struggled with, there really is a different way here that can work so much better. I hope this has given you a little bit of hope, and thank you so much for joining me today out on my hike, and I'll see you next time. I hope you have a great day. Take care.